Bellefonte Borough Council Work Session to order, Monday, October 2nd, 2023. Welcome everyone to the council work session. No action is taken during the work session. Mr. Bernier, do you have a trivia question for us?
I hope that one of the CNET people is majoring in history. Can anyone tell me anything, you don't have to get it exactly right, but anything about what we know today as the Eisenhower Doctrine? The Buddy, you minored in history. You already gave up.
Just because I took like 4
Eisenhower
classes.
Doctrine, Penn State students.
Hurry up, Google it. Google it. Hurry up.
Dawn.
Actually do, but I don't bring my computer.
No, but that's a good guess. Nothing?
I have nothing.
I have to read this verbatim then. This is not as much fun as when you guys guess.
Give it a try.
Adopted in 1957, so not that long ago. The Eisenhower Doctrine was a key aspect of the U.S. foreign policy under administration of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. The Eisenhower Doctrine promised U.S. economic and military combat assistance to any Middle Eastern country facing armed aggression, which still stands today. The Eisenhower Doctrine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's good to know.
You do realize 1957 was longer ago than... I think in 1970,
You're not allowed
like,
to answer
20
any more
years
trivia
ago.
questions.
It's not.
Hey, you know how hard it is to come up with a trivia question every week?
I'll help you, Ken.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Okay, thank you, Ken. So, item 3, items for discussion. 2024 budget. Review the 09 Refuge Fund, the 70 EMS Fund, the 03 Fire Department Funds, and the 04 Fire Equipment Fund. So let's start off with the, Lori, whatever you choose.
I think EMS is going to be the easiest to get our head back
Okay.
into it this week.
Works for me.
So the EMS, we set up, this is probably the 4th or 5th year now that we have levied a tax for them. We levied a tax, they turn in their invoices to us, and we pay them. So we don't give them any money, it all stays in-house, it all is done internally. The current tax rate is 0.25 mils. And they sent a letter asking for 0.5 mils, a 0.25 increase. I did not put that in here. I kept it the same. If you choose to increase it, we can do that. Basically, it's gonna be double everything almost that you, well, double the real estate tax revenue and then double the expense. So, we basically pay for their insurance, some of their insurance. They have a litter that they're actually quite expensive, and they have a lease on it alone, and I pay that. Those are really the biggest things that I pay for them. So this one is pretty straightforward. Your decision is going to be, do you want to give an increase to 0.5 mils or keep it at 0.25 mils? You don't need that decision now. You just need to start thinking about it.
I have a question. We've been at point, they kind of request $0.5 every year.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been contributing or budgeting half of that at 0.25, and it's been that way for a number of years.
We started out, I think, at 0.20, and then it went to 0.25.
I would like to at least recommend increasing that to 0.3. It's a very minimal increase. We have not increased our contribution to the EMS for a number of years. So this would be a minimal increase, but it would at least, demonstrate on our part that we're helping them. I know that they are strapped for funding from all the municipalities that they serve. And I don't have it in front of me what the millage is that each of the other participating municipalities contribute or are supposed to contribute. But I would like to see if we can do at least a minimal increase for them.
Other comments?
I think just my recollection is a couple years ago when Centercrest was going to move out of Bellefonte, that's when I thought Scott came in and started, asking for the increase because it was at that point that they were going to lose so much money from not having Centercrest in Bellefonte. So it's been a couple years that he's requested the half a millage.
Just,
I
go ahead.
kind of agree with Deb. It's been 3 years. Our concern has been that most of the other communities have not anteed up their portion. But I think by increasing that minimal amount, we might be able to show the other communities that they need to come up to the plate and put in their portion as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments?
One comment, it's just we have the meeting coming up here in the middle of the month with the other members of the SAB. And they're involved in this as well.
Mhm.
And maybe we could push that a little bit that evening.
Did you take note of that, Joanne? What Randy said?
Yes, so we're going to bring this up at the PSA meeting.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Make sure that everybody, demonstrate that we talked about increasing our commitment. Maybe some others would as well. Thank you. Thanks, Randy. Anything else for Lori? On the EMS fund? Okay.
Okay, so the next one is refuse. This is everything that has to do with the refuse and recycling. The Center County Recycling and Refuse Authority collects the recycling, but they do not bill people, they bill municipalities. So they bill us, we in turn bill our residents, and we collect the refuse part of it. So basically, the biggest holdup or glitch is that we do not know if Center County Recycling is going to raise their rates yet. I'm assuming that they're not. I've built this that they're not. If they do, it is a straight pass-through from them to us, to our customers. So the worst will be that our tipping fees go up a little and then our revenue goes up a little. So if they change their rates, if they increase them, we will have to adjust ours accordingly. But right now, there's no increase, no changes. Everything is pretty much straightforward. Our contract dictates the raises that we get next year, these guys get next year. We had some money left over. We are putting it into the capital projects. Matt had his list. He's got a tub grinder rental. He increased that because he's thinking that at some point UAJA is not going to take our brush anymore. And if they don't, then we'll need to do tub grinding more than once a year. And he asked for some tools and equipment. The biggest thing is the garbage truck he is giving as an FYI. Apparently, getting a garbage truck is 2 years out. So if we would happen to order it at the end of this year, we will be lucky to see it by the beginning of 2026. So he's just putting it FYI out there that we're gonna need it. We have some money in the capital projects fund if we wanna use that. We can do a lease to own, but he just wants to put it out there that we're gonna have to order one. And so we need to think about what we're gonna do. Are we gonna lease it? We're gonna have to lease at least some of it, but we can use our capital projects money if we want to. So he wanted to get us starting to think about that. So
are you saying, Lori, that that's not in next year's budget, but just a heads up?
right, there's not gonna be any cost until we would get it. Unless they decide that they're gonna require a down payment. So that may happen. But otherwise, there's no impact on next year's budget.
I just wanted to say that I included a capital improvement plan with the graph that's there, the pie chart that's there. Also, so that's a 5-year capital improvement plan. It starts the lease to own for that in 2 years. So that would build a little. And also puts in there as a possibility, a lease to own for a tub grinder as well, which might be something we could seek funding from the other municipalities that contribute to the brush to the landfill. So we can look into that to reduce that payment, and we can see where that fits. Since we are not going to have UAJA taking that, it'd be a good time to start to consider that.
I think the other municipalities already contribute to the tub grinder.
They do to the grinding, but she's talking about if we would purchase one.
Do you know how much they cost?
I
don't
don't.
have-
They're over $1 million.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, with the 902 grant, I tried to get Benner and Spring and Bellefonte to all get a $350,000 grant so that we could go in together along with the Center County Refuse, and they were all interested until they found out that the grant doesn't allow all the municipalities to go in and purchase one piece of equipment.
Oh, okay. 'Cause we
But
were-
those tub grinders are really expensive.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
We're going to look into, grants as well, if that was possible.
Did you say 350,000 for the tub grinder?
$1
No,
million.
it would be 350,000 times 3, and we would still, would have been just a little short, so we needed Center County Refuse to go in with their grant as well. The tub grinders cost, those big tub grinders are about $1.2 million.
Well, we may have to look at something else for that. But unless we find some very good grant funding.
Could we get the Logans down there and set fire to them? Practice.
Have a nice bonfire.
Yeah, right. Maybe we could offer the homecoming bonfire
There
or some
you
of
go.
the stuff.
Yeah. Once a week. Holy cow.
I know, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So that is the refuse. If you have any questions.
So
Anybody?
just a real quickie, so knowing that we got this god-awful expensive expense, is any of this put in here for a capital improvement for next year to be put aside to do the tub grinder?
Well, we do it every year. We do grind every year, Joanne, and with the agreement that we have with Spring and Benner, they end up paying 1/3 of the cost of the tub grinder for, at this point anyway. They have for the last probably 5, 7 years.
Yeah, so that's just in the budget. In
Yeah.
the
So
operating budget.
no, what I'm asking is, you're talking about, right now we're renting a tub grinder. If we were to purchase this, do we have this in the next couple of years, but to put aside for capital so that we can actually eventually purchase the thing so we don't have to keep paying the tub grinder rental?
So we would have extra in the capital budget that we would keep accumulating, which if we didn't need for other equipment, or we could also look at, at contributing more there, depending on what kind of funding we could find for that. What kind of payment agreement even for something like that would be, so.
So there is money that's going over to the capital projects fund, and we can choose to do with it whatever we want. We can use it toward a truck. We can, it may be that we find that $1 million is more than we can handle for a tub grinder. At $12,000 a year, you can do a lot of years of tub grinding. Yeah, hit $1 million.
I think the purchase is out of the question.
Yeah,
for
well,
now,
it
Joanne.
was only brought up because we applied for the grant. We don't
Right.
need to buy one.
No.
Right.
We're in a situation right now where it works. I
Right.
don't even understand why this is
So,
happening.
so
But yeah,
Lori,
it's working just fine the way it is.
Yeah.
We need a garbage truck.
Right, so I think that would probably come before,
yeah,
yeah.
so the funds in the refuge fund, are they transferable to anything else? The spare, what, you said there's some left over. Can that go into a general budget?
No.
Okay, it has to stay in a certain.
Right. You really, when you levy a tax, it cannot go. This is a fee. They do pay money over into the general fund, water, sewer, and refuse
Mhm.
all do, because all of us
Yeah,
are paid out of the
administrative.
general fund, but we work on everything.
Yep.
So the water, sewer, and refuse give money back to the general fund to cover our wages, our benefits, and things like that.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff that's purchased under the street department actually is used by the water
Mhm.
and the refuse
gotcha.
and stuff. So we just set money back to the general fund to cover that kind of stuff.
The reason I was asking is, we've got to start thinking about the renovation of the police department that we've made a commitment to. And if there's any funds that we can shuffle in that direction, we're still working on what the police department wants to do and how to configure it. But any residuals, I don't want to spend it on a stump grinder when we made commitments to others.
Right.
So
No,
we
it
need to
really,
prioritize where that money's going.
it really stays all within the refuse fund.
Okay, good.
So,
That answers that.
okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Other questions for Lori on the refuge fund? Okay,
Okay.
moving on.
So the fire equipment and the fire department funds, these budgets were presented last week at the fire exec meeting. They have not officially approved them yet, but I want you to see what went to them. They may decide to make changes, but you're seeing what they saw last week. So basically we do a assessed value, and then the county figures out what percentage. It's between Benner, Spring, and Bellefonte Borough, and the coverage area that our department does. So there's a long sheet that looks like this that gives you like a little history of that. And then I take those percentages and the amount of expense and prorate it for each municipality. The fire equipment fund is the fund that pays the loans on the fire apparatus. So basically, we pay the payment on the loans, and that's about it. So it's pretty much cut and dried. There's not much wiggle room. If they would opt to, like, it was last year or the year before, they purchased a new chief's vehicle when it wouldn't pass inspection. That came out of here. So it's that kind of stuff, the major stuff that comes out of here. They have one loan that's going to be paid off in 2024 and one that'll be paid off in 2025. So they probably will start looking at buying another engine, another piece of apparatus, because like the refuse truck, it takes a good 2 years to get. So, and they have to spec it out. So it's gonna probably be 2 to 3 years till we actually would see that. So they're gonna start thinking about that. So there's no change in the tax rate in this one. If there's any excess, what I've been doing is putting it over into the capital projects to be used when they get a new piece of apparatus or when they need another piece of equipment. So they do have a little bit that went this year, and they have some that's going in 2024 that went over to capital projects. They had requested if we could manage to do that. It's not a lot, but it's every little bit helps. So.
I'd like to add, because this was an issue that came up last year, and I want to thank Lori. This analysis of the assessed property, this is what you need to be attuned to. You can see back in 2010, the borough's share at that in that time frame was 43.55% of both the equipment and operating. Now it's down to 35.1%. So Lori she broke those down for you. You can see the percentage of Bellefonte, Spring, and Benner. And then, for example, the fire equipment, this year, the payment's gonna be $102,000, so our portion is 35% of that $102,000. Spring is 28.87%, and Benner is 36.03%. And that's how we've worked that since we
A long time.
worked out that agreement with the municipalities.
And just so you know, Marion just gives a flat amount. They really only cover the interstate, and so they give a little bit as a cooperation. So theirs is always a flat rate, it doesn't change too much. Then the other fund is the fire department fund, and this is the fund that we pay their operating expenses out of. Most of what they do is maintenance on the equipment. They pay their fair share of the commercial insurance, their workers' comp insurance. They have pagers or cell phones and jetpacks, and so this is where all of that money comes from. This is one that they can change. So for next year, again, just like Don said with the other one, I have the little breakdown as to how much Bellefonte, Benner, and Springs portions are. But each department gave a list of what they'd like to have next year. It came to $119,000. We were $48,000 short. So I told the chiefs they had to decide what they wanted to give up. They chose at this point to give up physicals, and that was $32,000, and then they took the extra 16 from the remaining list of equipment. So right now it's a balanced budget. It is not set in stone. They have not determined if this is the final way they want it or not. Their maintenance has gone up phenomenally, and so between the increase in that and the equipment that they want, it's a pretty high budget for equipment. So right now it is not set in stone, like I said. We are going to need a very small increase in taxes for this one, mainly because inflation has gone up and we need to keep up with that. So it's a 0.05 mil, which gets us about $7,000, which gets us to where we need to be. It's very small, but we need to contribute our fair share as well. So it's not much, but inflation really took a toll.
So is that just for Bellefonte?
That's just for Bellefonte.
When I brought that up last year, it got picked out.
Well, but this one is to get us to meet our fair share, which is 80,000, and we're not bringing in 80,000 in revenue. We're coming up short on our portion.
Our percentage of
Our
what
percentage, so
we owe.
that 35.1%, we're about $7,000 short of meeting that number. So I don't know what the townships will have to do to make their numbers. I don't know. I'm just telling you that.
Well, as I understand it, and what I was told last year, you have to have everybody involved. All the townships that belong, Spring, Benner, and Bellefonte. Bellefonte's not gonna go out on the limb by itself. And that's what I was told when we voted and talked about it at the last budget that we did last year. And so it got pushed down. So now you're telling me we can go back, put it on Bellefonte, and then see what Spring and Benner will pay. It makes no sense in my mind.
I think
how
what
this
she's
works.
saying is to get to our percentage, our fair share, we need to increase our portion that much to meet our
35%.
35%.
But that's something we could have done last year. If that's the case,
That's
something
a
we could have done
different,
last year.
you're
I'm just
talking a
saying.
different
Yeah, last year,
scenario.
Randy, we already had the money to meet our portion of the budget. And what you were requesting was just to increase the increase a mil or a half a mil just to give to the fire department above and beyond what our bottom line was. what Lori's saying is we don't even, we haven't met our bottom line this year. We have to raise 0.05 to meet the bottom line. That's all we're doing.
We're not increasing our percentage. We're trying to meet our percentage that we already have established. And to do that, we have to raise the tax to do that. Is that making sense to
Yeah,
you?
I guess. Would go with the flow with this one, because it's been that way since I've been on council.
Yes,
It has been this way.
right.
So that increase, like I said, is just to meet our 35%. That is not giving them any extra. So,
The other thing I want to bring up is between the budget request, they need to pare this down so it's equal. You have 10 items from the Undines and 5 from the Logans. And, one's up at 89,500 and the other one's $29,985. So I think there has to be some type of, this is all tax money that comes in to pay for this stuff. And so that needs to be balanced, I think, a little better.
well, a lot of the Undines is maintenance on their equipment, not just the purchase of equipment.
I understand that, I see what I'm reading, and I see that it's all repair. But that's $89,500 for repairs.
Well, it's 56,000 between the two for repairs and 63,000 for the minor equipment stuff.
Other questions?
Seems reasonable. I mean, with the cost of everything nowadays, obviously, it's gonna go back to the taxpayers. So, I mean, seems reasonable. Not that we're not voting on it, but I'm just
Yeah.
commenting that
Yeah.
what you explained seemed reasonable.
So there, right now, it's a .75 mil, so to do the .05, we're gonna go from .75 to .80 mils.
You know, when you first started talking about EMS and you mentioned that they hadn't asked for an increase or we hadn't given them an increase in 3 years, is that unusual or is that usual? You know, a part of our budget as important as EMS not needing an increase in their funding for 3 years. Is that something that other parts of your budget that you know so well and I don't, they don't ask for increases every year? I mean, it would seem to me that, especially in today's economy, every aspect of our budget is going to need funding to survive. I mean, if we're not watching the news, then I don't know why this would surprise anyone. It's just crazy, but EMS hasn't needed an increase in 3 years?
Oh, they've asked for
Oh,
an
they have.
increase.
Okay.
And like Randy said, the fire department asked for an increase.
Okay, I
It's-
misunderstood that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
We just,
And, I mean, the difference between like water, sewer, refuse, they're fee-based. These are tax-based.
okay.
Yes, they would all love, the parks would love to have an increase.
Yeah.
But some of it is you have to work within what your taxpayers can do. I had a talk at the fire department that, there's a limit as to how much you can levy. If there's no reassessment in less than 15 years, at 1 mil a year, we are at our limit.
Because we have a limited tax base.
Because there's a limit of 30 mils that you can levy.
Okay.
So we really need to have a reassessment at the county level.
Without reassessing.
Right.
I understand, yeah.
If they reassess, then that changes
Yeah.
things, but without a reassessment, so that's something we really need to think of, because that's not something that's in our control, that reassessment.
Right.
So we need to really try to live within our means
Sure.
as best as we can, because that is looming. Less than 15 years, that's gonna go by in a blink of an eye, at 1 mil a year.
The last assessment was 94, and that's the year we go by.
So it's definitely something to think about, and
Yeah.
I can tell you the fire department would love an increase. as with the EMS, as with the parks. You know, they have a long wish list, all of them.
Yeah.
But
So, just a quick question. Are you suggesting that in a council meeting, not this one because we can't do it tonight, that we have a motion to request the county to look at reassessment of all properties throughout the entire county? Because that's where the reassessment has to be done. It can't be done here at the borough level.
right, the county has to do
Yeah,
it.
but you're not recommending council.
We can't tell the county.
I'm just telling you the reality of the situation as it is now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard Joanne, but she said that would be 1 mil for the next 15 years.
Right.
You haven't really increased it a mil every year, so.
Right, but that's something, I mean, a mill can get eaten up pretty quickly
Sure.
over all of our funds, so, they are gonna need bump from time to time, yes, because of inflation and everything goes up in cost, but the goal is to try to not have them all need a bump at the same time.
Spread them out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Ralph has always said, and he's right, little bumps are easier to handle. It's easier to have a 1 mil increase than it is to have a 5 mil increase. That's a lot harder for people to handle, so.
You know, other things, Kent, that I think future councils and municipalities will have to look at will be consolidation of services, you know, because not every municipality is going to be able to keep going out
Yeah.
raising taxes to cover the cost.
That's why I was surprised.
These are long-term.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear you say they wouldn't let you combine the grants among municipalities. I mean, obviously, I don't know anything about budgets.
For
or-
a piece of
Right,
equipment.
but I'm
they-
surprised that they haven't come to that. I mean, obviously, we can't afford fire apparatus,
Yeah.
you know, every year. So to allow us to combine with other municipalities to help us pay for whatever apparatus, I just like saying apparatus. It would make sense, wouldn't it? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me that they wouldn't allow that, so.
Well, for grant purposes.
I know,
but
I
the
know,
reality of it
but
is.
that's how we can afford that stuff, the
Yeah,
grants.
well, the apparatus, we do get 2% PEMA loans that the state helps fund. And then in addition to that, Benner and Spring and Bellefonte are all contributing based on that percentage, again, that breakdown of that percentage. That's who's paying what for all
Yeah.
new apparatus.
You said that, that's awesome.
But
Apparatus.
it is, you're gonna be looking at pretty close to $1 million
Oh, yeah.
for a new engine.
Well, I can't
That's
wait to
staggering.
hear what a new garbage truck costs.
Well,
I can't wait to tell the people,
450,000.
yeah. Well, how are we gonna pay for it, you know, so we gotta, you know, we gotta figure it out, it's gonna be costly, but we need it,
Right.
you know? Love garbage trucks.
That's the 5-year-old in you, right?
Okay, anything else?
So that's the end of my talk tonight. Welcome. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Lori.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So we can close this meeting, adjourn?
Yeah, just close it up.
Okay, this work session is adjourned. So we're gonna start the business meeting whenever Ralph is, or Dawn is ready with the recording. Are you still with us, Joanne? The Bellefonte Borough Council business meeting to order. It's 7:31 PM on Monday, October 2nd. First, I'd like to have the Pledge of Allegiance followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Holdeman, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Bernier.
Here.
Mr. Brackbill.
Here.
Miss Clayton. Miss Dan.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Present?
Miss McKean.
Here.
Miss Purnell.
Here.
Miss Sedgwick.
Here.
Miss Tosti Vasey via Zoom.
Yes?
And Mayor Johnson.
Here. Great, thank you, Don. In accordance with Act 65, if a matter is not on the agenda, council cannot take official action on it. With some exceptions, the council can act on matters relating to potential or real emergencies. Council may add a matter of agency business to its agenda through a majority vote. The council should state the reason why the action item is being added to the agenda. Council may vote to add an action item to the agenda. Does any council member have an action item they would like to bring forth to the agenda to make the motion?
I would like to remove an item, Mr. President. I'd like to remove the shade tree within the downtown. I didn't get a response back in time from the Shade Tree Commission, so I'll put that on the October 16th meeting,
Okay.
along with some photos.
So I'm looking for a motion and a second to remove the Shade Tree Commission, removing and replacing 3 trees in the downtown, conditional to approve from the Shade Tree Commission.
I'll make that.
So moved.
Randy and Barbara. Randy made the motion, Barbara seconded. Thank you, Joanne.
That's no problem.
Any discussion on this? Roll call, please, Julie.
We did the roll call.
Oh, on the vote?
Oh, okay, all right.
Should, I think we have to, yeah, okay. You want to do that?
Mr. Grenier?
Yes.
Mr. Brackville?
Yes.
Ms. Clayton?
Yes.
Ms. Dan?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKean?
Yes.
Ms. Purnell?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes.
Ms. Tostavasi?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Public comment, item 5. Public comment period is for oral comments regarding any action items listed on this meeting agenda or any comments in general. No deliberations will be entered into by council at this time. If you haven't, please sign in, come to the podium at the appropriate time, which is now, and state your name and address and which item you're speaking about. We're going to limit the comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Joseph Griffin.
Hi,
My-
Joseph.
Hi. My address is 133 North Spring Street in Bellefonte. Is that all that I'm supposed to say?
Yep.
I'm kind of long-winded, but this should take 3 minutes if I talk fast enough. Recently, we lamented the cancellation of this year's Bellefonte Under the Lights. I wonder how many of us called to mind the first such celebration. It was during the winter of 1884, and the occasion was the flipping of a switch that sent DC current to the Bush House, the Brockerhoff Hotel, and some electric lights placed outside so that all could see this new illumination. The power behind this phenomenon was the Edison Electric Illuminating Company, whose generating station was located right here at the corner of Lamb and Water Streets. The company was headed by George Valentine and several other elite Bellefonte business leaders and professionals. Allow me to remind council about the history of lighting in these parts. In 1846, the American whaling fleet was at its peak, and whale oil was the preferred source of light after the sunset. In 1859, the first American oil well was drilled in Titusville, and soon thereafter, kerosene replaced whale oil as the lighting fuel of choice. A good thing, too, because we were running out of whales. After Edison perfected his incandescent bulb in 1879, he set about establishing electric utilities throughout the country, and Bellefonte was among the earlier communities that managed to set up a local power company. We still brag about it. Is it a coincidence that our forefathers' embrace of the newest technology of their day coincided with the high point of Victorian Bellefonte, which we still tend to celebrate? Electricity changed lighting 40 years after it revolutionized communication through the telegraph. It changed other parts of our material culture as well. Consider heating. First we used wood, then coal, next oil and gas, and lately electricity. When I roam our residential streets, I see plenty of heat pumps. Lastly, let's consider transportation. Once civilization set in, we used horses. These fine animals were supplanted by automobiles running on gasoline, and now we see the advent of electric vehicles. It's still early, but the thrust towards the electrification of transportation is undeniable. The internal combustion engine will be a niche product in just a few decades. Why would council remove charging stations from our public parking lots? Do we hope to inconvenience the people who want to drive their EV in Bellefonte to shop or enjoy a meal? Perhaps we intend to hobble owners of downtown rental properties by discouraging potential tenants with EVs. Or is the goal to simply own the libs? Making Bellefonte more inconvenient for users of the new transportation technology won't slow its progress, but it will hinder ours. Where are the George Valentines of 2023? What have we lost in the intervening 140 years? Get smarter, and please, bring back Bellefonte.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Nancy Perkins, Curtin Street, Bellefonte. I was kind of surprised this was on the agenda, so I showed up kind of unexpectedly. And I guess I'm just wondering why we would want to remove the charging stations. I guess I wasn't part of that conversation. It seems to be impractical since they're already installed, so it's going to cost money to take them out. We hear all the time about how much things are costing. That doesn't seem to be a very practical solution. And it will hurt downtown businesses. I think it's an asset we can advertise if we do it properly. And if people come here to our events or they want to do business with us or they come to court, it's very convenient to know that you have a charging station nearby in one of our parking lots. So otherwise, they will go to Weiss Market, and that's out of town, and they will not come to our businesses. Ford Motor Company is converting its whole manufacturing to EV manufacturing. So if you're not driving an EV now, you probably will be in the future. So it doesn't make any sense to not embrace the change and what's coming down the pike. And visitors need a place to charge their car. So I guess I'm just wondering who suggested this proposal. I guess, as I say, I wasn't part of following the issue, so I just wondered if I could get the information about who proposed this.
I
Is
think
that possible?
that's an action item. We'll be discussing it during the business meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Good evening, my name is Stephanie Peters, and I am the Executive Director down at the Bellefonte Chamber. I received a few phone calls today from business owners and people in the community that had seen this brought up on the agenda. One of the gentlemen owns Happy Wraps, very close to the park. He has several people that stop in there that come from the interstate that's looking for not fast food. And while they're there, a few of them have said how nice it is that they can charge their vehicle and continue on their trip and still visit our town. So the general feeling today was if we remove these charging stations, we're taking away an asset and we're taking away potential businesses and revenue back to the borough. So I really would have you consider taking them out. I know there's costs on both sides, but this is an asset that we have. And yes, they have it at Wise, but like was said before, that's Spring Township. That's not coming into the borough. You know, we have shops, we have restaurants, we have the park, we have so many things that people can take part in while they're charging their car. If they're out there, you have Wise, you have the liquor store, and you have Wendy's, none of which is helping our town. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm also join the crowd.
Sure.
My name's Dan Alters, and I live in Benner Township, but I'm here today representing the Citizens Climate Lobby, right here in Center County. I applaud Bellefonte's forward thinking in developing charging stations for electric vehicles. Strategically placed in downtown areas, these charging stations attract people needing to spend some time to get their vehicles fully charged and back on the road. I drove around a little bit to find each one here in town, noting how many businesses were so very near to them. There are multiple proposals for charging stations across the country, and I've often thought that putting a business, and especially a restaurant, near a charging station would just be pure genius. Somebody comes in and plugs their vehicle in, walks into the restaurant and spends an hour to an hour and a half eating their lunch or supper, come back out to a fully charged vehicle. I reviewed the Bellefonte Borough Council website and was happy to see that charging stations were listed for the parking areas. It would be nice to somehow emphasize that these stations are also very close to shopping and restaurants within the borough. While I didn't have time to survey many businesses, I did stop at the Reynolds Mansion, noted the charging station near the bed and breakfast gets used, and noted that the charging station near the bed and breakfast gets used nearly every week, according to the young lady that I spoke to there. And it's a perk for staying there. They pay for it for their guests. So once again, thank you, Bellefonte, for keeping up this good work, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 6. PennDOT conversation about electric vehicle charging dates and location. In your packet tonight is that information. Do you want to say anything about that, Dawn or Joanne? Anybody? Nothing? Okay.
It's just a notice of events around the state on the benefits of electric vehicle charging. That came into my account from the Drive Electric PA Coalition. And I forwarded on to Ralph and Don to put in the packet.
Yeah.
I would just say anyone interested can go to penndot.pa.gov/EV for more information.
I was looking for the closest event near Bellefonte, Joanne. It looks like, I don't know,
Williamsport.
Williamsport. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's on Wednesday, November 1st. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that right? 1, 2.
Actually, I think it's the
I think it's
23rd.
October 23rd, Joanne.
From 5 to
Okay,
7.
I don't have it directly in front of me, so I'll have to go to your best knowledge because you're reading it.
According to this, it's Monday, October 23rd, 5 to 7 p.m. Michael Ross Events Center, 144 West 3rd Street, Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Any other comments on that one? Okay, consent agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve this.
The consent agenda?
September
As listed?
19th, 2023.
Is there a second to
as
that?
listed.
I'll second.
Thank you.
McKean.
So
I have 2 amendments I need to make.
on the consent agenda,
Yes, on the minutes.
okay, do you want to do that now?
Yes, the first, they're both on page 4. The one is the request for alternative fuels tax memo under new business. It should say discussion included clarification of why a $1 cost increase is necessary instead of the originally requested increase of 50 cents per hour. The way it was written, it sounds like that I opposed any increase whatsoever, and that's not correct. So Roy said right now, there's the $1 isn't there, and the 50 cents per hour is also not there, and I want that added to make it clear that it wasn't a statement of saying I didn't want this at all.
Yeah, I think Mr. Halderman explained why that.
Yes, but it still needs to be put into the minutes that
Sure.
it wasn't a blanket refusal of the increase.
Sure. And the next one?
The next one is in the next paragraph, and it says I voted against the Missoula Park line installation. I voted yay.
I agree, I remember that. Thank you. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, with those changes, do I need to ask for another motion, or?
No, with
We're
changes.
good with that? Dawn is making it. Okay, so I need a roll call vote, please. Julie?
Okay. Mr. Bernier?
Yes.
Mr. Brackbell?
Yes.
Ms. Clayton?
Yes.
Ms. Dan?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. McKean?
Yes.
Ms. McKean, sorry. Ms. Purnell?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick? Yes. Ms. Tastavasi?
Yes.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, we'll move on to item 8, reports. Mayor, you're up. Okay.
I have a proclamation for National Fire Prevention Week. Whereas Borough of Bellefonte is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting the Bellefonte Borough. And whereas Bellefonte Borough residents should identify places in their homes where fires can start and eliminate those hazards. And whereas Bellefonte Borough residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. And whereas Bellefonte Borough residents should install smoke alarms in every sleeping room, outside each separate sleeping area, and on every level of their home. And whereas Bellefonte Borough residents should listen for the sound of the smoke alarm, and when it sounds, respond by going outside immediately to the designating meeting place. And whereas the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme, Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape, effectively serves to remind us that we need to know 2 different ways out of our homes and have a meeting place outside of our homes. Now, therefore, I, Buddy Johnson, Mayor of Bellefonte Borough, do hereby proclaim the week of October 8th through the 14th, 2023 as National Fire Prevention Week.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Office of Community Affairs. I'm looking for a motion and a second to remove the DBI mural project from the table.
So moved.
All 3 of us.
I didn't, who?
Joanne made the motion and McKean seconded.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this removal from the table? Roll call, please. Julie?
Okay. Mr. Bernier?
Yes.
Mr. Brackdahl?
Yes.
Ms. Clayton?
Yes.
Ms. Dan?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKean?
Yes.
Ms. Purnell?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes.
Ms. Tastavasi?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion and a second to approve the following hard project.
So moved.
DBI mural project
Ready for that yet?
for back of the building at 123 South Allegheny Street.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Randy. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Joanna. Discussion?
This is for the mural,
Yes.
correct? I do have a question on this. Is there any maintenance planned for this? As if the paint starts to peel or fade or?
Yes, there's a property owner agreement between DBI and the property owner for those 2 entities to maintain it.
Okay.
So they have their own contract between the 2 of them for a maintenance agreement.
So they're both financially?
Yes, yeah.
Obligated.
The borough is not in any way financially liable for the mural, and also they are responsible for any maintenance.
Okay.
in the
Gina,
future.
just curiosity, how long do they expect that to last?
I can't remember what Alex said exactly, but there's some general wear on murals, but for the most part, because of like the quality paint that's used and the care that's taken and surfacing it and making sure that's okay, generally it lasts, 10, 20 years before maybe touch-ups are needed.
Okay.
But, it's, if you've been downtown State College, there's murals there that have been there for decades and, they're still in good shape. So they, Alex talked a little bit about maintenance in the various meetings that I attended with her, because I sat on the mural committee for a little bit as a representative, obviously, of Harb and zoning, and those questions were brought up, and her experience with doing the murals throughout the country. There really is less maintenance than I think people seem to think that there would be.
Okay.
There just isn't a lot of like paint peeling and stuff like that because they use a good quality paint. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions for Gina? Roll call vote, please. Julie?
Okay, Mr. Bernier,
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill,
Yes.
Ms. Clayton,
Yes.
Ms. Dan,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. McKean,
Yes.
Ms. Purnell,
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick,
Yes.
Ms. Tostavasi.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next one. I'm going to read this resolution before I ask for a motion and a second to approve it. It's resolution number 100-220-23-01. Resolution of the Borough of Bellefonte recognizing the service of Patricia Long to the Bellefonte Historic Architectural Review Board. Whereas Patricia Long has served faithfully as a member of the Borough of Bellefonte Historic Architectural Review Board for over 13 years. And whereas Patricia Long's commitment to the board, leadership, and knowledge about history and historic preservation in the Borough of Bellefonte aided in evaluating the proposed rehabilitation of properties in the historic district. And whereas Patricia Long has been faithful in assisting the Bellefonte Harb by educating her real estate community and clients about the value and benefits of preserving historic properties. And whereas Patricia Long has used her professional as a real estate broker in promoting historic preservation in Bellefonte Borough and throughout the Center County region. And whereas Patricia Long brought her longtime experience and knowledge of local real estate and housing trends into discussion of the Harb, and whereas Patricia Long's understanding and respect for heritage guided the Harb in making informed decisions that balance preservation objectives with practical considerations. And whereas Patricia Long ended her service as a member of the Historic Preservation Board in September of 2023. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Bellefonte Borough Council and Bellefonte Historic Review Board recognize the extraordinary personal and professional contributions of Patricia Long to historic preservations in Bellefonte and express appreciation for her exemplary service on the Historic Architectural Review Board. Resolved this second day of October of 2023. So I'm looking for a motion to approve this resolution to recognize the service of Patricia Long to the Bellefonte Harb.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Joanne made the motion. You took the second.
Clayton.
Okay. Roll call vote, please. Oh, any discussion on this? Any comments?
I've seen, just real quickly, I've seen Pat work with the Harb for several years, from the first time I first heard about Harb up until then, and she has done an excellent job, and I personally commend her for her work.
Thank you, Joanne. I ditto your comments. Any other comments? Roll call vote, please. Julie?
Mr. Bernier,
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill,
Yes.
Ms. Clayton,
Yes.
Ms. Dan,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes?
Ms. McKean,
Yes.
Ms. Purnell,
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick,
Yes.
Ms. Tostavasi.
Yes.
Thank you. Looking now for a motion to approve Mark McMaster as the new real estate broker representative on the Harb Board.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Deb.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Barbara. You all have looked at Mark's resume, in the packet. Looks like an outstanding candidate for the position, so any other comments?
Just a quickie for the public's knowledge. The HARB ordinance requires a real estate broker on the HARB. And having someone with the experience of Martin Pastor, I think, will be really helpful to replace Pat Long.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bernier.
Yes.
Mr. Brackwell.
Yes.
Ms. Clayton.
Yes.
Ms. Dan.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes?
Ms. McKean.
Yes.
Ms. Purnell.
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick.
Yes.
Ms. Tostavasi.
Thank you. We're moving on to item 9, current and old business. First item, South Spring Street Streetscape Project. Don, do you want to have any comments on it?
Only that we had the first construction meeting last week, and we put the schedule in the packet for you. You can see the anticipated timeline for completion is November 22nd. They're making great progress as it's moving along right now. So the only reason for really the delay is the timeline to get the bricks in. So other than that, it's coming along pretty well.
Looks really nice, Don. Okay. Center County Boroughs Association Fall Meeting is at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, October 18th, right here. It's in council chambers, isn't it, Joanne?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Speaker invitation to State Representative Kerry Benninghoff. We're hoping that he will attend. LB Water has agreed to sponsor the meeting. Council members, or please let Alyssa know if you plan to attend. We have no action item on that. Police Department renovations update. Don, do you want to comment on that, if you would, please?
Yeah, there really isn't too much to say at this point. I mean, obviously, we were hoping the elevator would have been installed in the building by sometime in October was the original timeline. We're pretty well behind schedule on that. It's probably looking more like early spring before I think a lot of the work will be completed. I know Julie's been going to those construction meetings. I don't know, Julie, if you have any more input, but a lot of it's going to really determine how much funding we have left over in that grant that will, once the moves transpire, that we can do some things here for the police department on this floor.
Anything to add, Julie?
No, I don't think
So the elevator is just holding it up.
They ran into, when they were digging, they ran into some pipes, so there are some change orders that are being worked on how they're going to, where they're going to move those to get them out of the way.
In the meantime, it might be suggested that we do organize a facilities
Okay.
meeting in the next month or so.
Okay.
Just to bring us up to speed of where we're at
Great.
and what direction we want to go, so we can be prepared for when that is complete, to try to move forward with the project, I think.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Any other comments for the update on the renovation? Hearing none, we'll move on. The next item is EV charging stations, removal of charging stations. I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the removal of EV charging stations within the borough lots.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Bernier has made a motion. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Barbara has seconded the motion. Discussion, please.
Well, surely that this item is on our borough council agenda tonight, not because we're not smart enough, but because we talked about this for months, right? And there was good reason that this is on the agenda tonight. So can either Mr. President or Mr. Don Holderman remind us why this item was on the agenda and why we thought that it was a good idea to have this on the agenda, not because we're not smart enough.
You want to take that?
Sure.
No,
That's okay.
I mean, surely we talked
No,
about this for months. I
No,
remember.
We have, as
yes,
council.
it's a good, actually, there were good points made by the audience tonight, and it's a good question here, Kent. And I think it was put on the agenda tonight because before at the last meeting, we brought up about the alternative fuels tax.
Mm-hmm.
When we initially put the charging stations in, the borough put them in, didn't charge for electricity. New council came on So we spent, the last 6, 7 months, we're trying to work to get these charging stations where the electricity is going to be paid for. We've worked to get the meters. They haven't been delivered yet, but we anticipate they're going to be in shortly. And then after we got the meters and council agreed to a price of $3 to cover the cost of, number one, the parking, number two, the electricity, and number three, the alternative fuels tax. Before we go to all the work and we're going to put this in, we just wanted to verify and just make sure that this is what council wants, because from here on out, the borough is basically in the business of providing electricity and submitting monthly reports to the Department of Revenue and sending money in for an alternative fuel tax, which when the borough originally signed up for EV charging stations, we were doing it, to try to bring people into the borough and just it was a kind of like everyone said, it's an asset. But now it's a little bit more than just an asset to the borough. It's going to be a little bit more work on the borough's behalf, which we're willing to do, but we want to make sure this is what council wants the borough doing.
It's a lot more. I mean, we had charging stations go down, right, Donna? We had to spend thousands of dollars, like $4,000 or $5,000 to have them repaired, which came out of our budget.
Yeah.
Remember the electricity, right? We had 4 or 5 of them ruined.
Yeah.
So I know we spent a lot of time talking about this. I just wanted everyone to remember that. I know that it's not just on here because, for no good reason. There's reason that they're on here. And
Actually, they were blown out on that one parking lot twice.
Right.
I mean, we replaced there was a power outage, power surge that blew all 4 of them out. We got them replaced, and within 2 days there was a storm that did the same thing. So the staff had to do that. That was all on the staff that had to do that work. So, but I'm more concerned about the long term. I mean, this alternative fuel tax is going to be additional work for staff.
And police.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
after
Well,
enforcement
staff,
hours,
yeah, staff,
the police will be responsible for.
that's
monitoring
the only reason it's on the agenda. It's not that, it's not for any other. I mean, if things were just the way they were originally, there were no issues. You just installed them.
yeah, they're
and
not
that was
free.
that.
They're not free.
Yeah.
Like they were when we first voted on them. They were free, supposedly. They're not anymore. Okay.
Yes.
I think some of the previous conversations we had were concerning the amount of work that staff would have to do. And looking at the documents that are included in our packet, the first one is a Department of Revenue application form, and everything on there except, I think, one number is basic information about the borough. I think the challenge is going to be finding, since we don't have metered use on all of those charging stations, it's going to be finding that original benchmark in 2021 that we work from, and that's going to take some research. Just because it's in my wheelhouse, I filled out a DMF 101, which is the actual calculation for reporting the alternative fuels. And I think I saw something in here where it doesn't have to be done monthly. It can be done semi-annually or annually. And I don't think that we're in
It'll be dependent on the usage, Deb.
on the usage, but we're not generating billions of dollars of gasoline, for instance. I went back and did, just for basic math, first of all, in the DMF 101 form, 80% of this doesn't even apply to the borough because we're only dealing with one alternative fuel, and that's electricity. And for just for ease of math, for every 1,000 kilowatt hours used, it would be $17.13 in tax. That was for 2021. The rates have gone up, so for 2023, for every 1,000 kilowatt hours used, it would be $18.23. So I think once we have that benchmark number to work from for the meters or for the charging stations that don't have their specific meter, filling in the form is not going to be that complicated.
I don't think we're looking at complications. We're looking at being reimbursed for the power used and the staff time. And the only thing I think that's being debated is whether we're gonna charge $3 an hour or not. I don't know, I mean, I know the motion is to remove them, but if it fails, then we're gonna charge $3 an
No,
hour.
I don't understand why we would want to remove them in the first place, because they've proven to be an asset.
The reason was to get this discussion and to let the public know what extra work would needed to be done to administer the fees. That's my opinion, and what's the rest of council?
So
That's the reason that I.
2 weeks ago, we talked about raising money or how we're gonna fund that, the parking for the electric charging.
Mhm.
And I had never heard anything like this as far as removing anything in any conversation around this table. It may have been away from the table, but it wasn't mentioned here. To me, if you're really serious about this, we should have that conversation here, in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And I would move to table this.
To what?
I would move to table this to a work session,
I would second.
continue this discussion.
And there's the second.
Who has seconded it?
McKean.
Shauna.
Okay.
Would it be feasible to have one operating, like the one downtown by the VFW? Because that is like the hub of downtown. That's where people would park and go
I'll
to
call point of
businesses.
order, we have a table.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Point of order. There's a motion to table. We can't have any discussion. I have so much I wanted to say, but I can't because there's a motion to table. Sorry.
That's all right.
Well, I didn't know we were finished with the comment period, but I guess we're gonna table it. So those,
Well, do we have to vote on that?
well, yeah, it has to be, and then if it's tabled.
No, we
I
don't.
don't think you voted on this table.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay, so it's tabled. I
Oh,
thought, I
You have to
thought.
have a vote. You have to have a vote.
Yeah, there was a motion and a second. We have to vote
I
on it.
thought, I don't know.
Go ahead. Julie.
okay. Mr. Bernier,
No.
Mr. Brackville.
Yes.
Ms. Clayton,
Yes.
Ms. Dan,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes. Well, wait, I
To
don't
table.
want to table it, so I vote no.
Ms. McKean,
Yes.
Ms. Purnell,
No.
Ms. Sedgwick,
Yes.
Ms. Tostavasi,
Yes.
there's 3 no's. Six yes.
Okay, it's tabled. So we'll move on now. John Nastis construction bid without withdrawal from Parkview Heights Stormwater Project.
There's a memo in your packet that John Nastis, who we awarded the contract to for the Parkview Heights Stormwater Project, withdrew his bid. Come in and, gave us his reasons why. So we will proceed with awarding the contract to the second bidder, which is John Clark Construction.
Okay, good. New business, aggressive bees within the borough. You saw the memo in the packet from Julie. You saw the letters from some residents. I'm looking for a motion and a second to declare aggressive bees a nuisance within the borough.
I'll make that.
Thank you, Barb.
I'll second.
Second, Kent. Discussion.
Who seconded it?
Kent Bernier.
Oh, thank you.
What would be the next step in enforcing this?
We're going to let Julie speak to that, if you would, please.
That would be,
John Sabibo, the
The-
enforcement officer.
yes, yeah, it would be our enforcement officer.
Pass out EpiPens.
So is there gonna be signage posted, or how's that being presented to the people who are not in that area? which we don't even know where that area is. It's on Bishop Street somewhere.
A recommended abatement might be removal. We are working on a bee ordinance. We don't have one right now. And at that time, then that could be revisited in that location.
But we had an ordinance.
I thought we did have something.
We have an ordinance as a bee-friendly community, but we do not have a beekeeping ordinance at this time.
Because I think this came up a couple of years ago over, I think it was on Monroe Street. A resident had mentioned that a neighbor, it was a similar situation with a neighbor with beehives, and they weren't staying in the yard.
So this has a lot of beehives in that area, and like I said, it's aimed just at the aggressive bees for that area.
And they had proposed an option to relocate those bees somewhere else, but they haven't done it yet. So that's what it said in the notes. So.
That was one of the suggestions from the neighbors. So you saw the 2 letters included from the neighbors. So the suggestion was made for that, but that did not happen. So abatement, we could request that to happen, and then when we have a bee ordinance saying number of hives, there are approximately 8 or 9 hives on this less than quarter-acre property. So that's a lot of hives for a very small area, and the neighbors are right next to each other, so no space there.
So I have a question. How will this affect those beekeepers who have just like maybe 1 hive?
Nothing.
Or maybe 2 hives? Would that affect them at all, who they're not aggressive or anything?
No.
Or is this only targeting those who have large hive colonies that
It's
causing
addressing
problems?
those that are a nuisance.
Only aggressive bees. So if we were receiving many reports, this just allows us to address it through the nuisance code. If we were receiving many reports of people being stung, then we could look into that. And we have a bee ordinance in place. We could certainly go that route. This would be definitely only for this kind of nuisance where people are being harmed.
Is this is this residence that has the 3 or 4, is that new property, new problem?
No, it's been a few years, I think.
Yeah, wow.
Well, this is for the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, that's a lot of bees. That abatement of nuisance ordinance is hard to read. But I see that it could be applied here for sure. I just, without having to create a whole new something specific to bees, as I'm reading that, that's a nuisance and it's causing a public health issue.
So only applied to aggressive.
Yeah.
And like I said, people being,
Right.
multiple reports on that. And
Wow. Okay.
Any other comments?
Yes, just a curiosity, just like with the electric vehicles, should we have, I would like to table this to the next, to give chance for beekeepers and those surrounding the beekeepers. I do know there are several beekeepers who do their due diligence, and I'd like to see if they have any suggestions to make sure that they can still do their bee-friendly stuff, but still take care of this nuisance issue.
It's just a memo, Joanne. They just gave us a memo. What are we tabling?
Joey, this
They're
has
just
nothing
asking
to
us
do
to-
with the safe
there's aggressive
beekeepers of
stinging
the
bees.
community.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just want to make sure that whatever we pass this evening does not negatively impact those who have beehives that are doing the right thing. That's all I'm asking for. And if you think that this will do that,
None of
then
us
I'm
want.
fine
None of
with
us
it,
want to
but
do that, Joanne.
do the way it's written, but if it's not, then I would like to have input from them. That's all I'm saying. Because I do agree, it is a health issue. My husband is allergic to
Is there a
bees, so I
second to
fully
the table
understand.
motion?
But I do want to make sure that
It's a memo.
we're taking into account everybody.
She has to table this. From what I heard.
Yes, I did.
But to go back to what you're saying, Kent, what we're asking, what it's in the agenda is a motion and a second to declare aggressive bees within the borough, under Borough Ordinance 377-1, abatement of nuisance. So we're asking you guys to make that motion to give our person
Right.
the vehicle to be able to take action in this instance.
Right.
This is very important. This is a real problem for these residents, and I think it should be passed tonight.
Is there a second to Joanne's motion to table this?
Okay, that's
call-
fine. I just wanted to raise my
Roll call
concern
vote,
about
please,
the other
Julie.
people in town.
Did you get a motion and a second on this yet?
I thought we did.
Yeah.
I didn't write
Yeah.
it down.
Correct.
Okay.
So, Mr. Bernier,
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill,
Yes.
Ms. Clayton,
Yes.
Ms. Dan,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. McKean,
Yes.
Ms. Purnell,
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick,
Yes.
Ms. Tostavasi.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item 11, council member comments for the good of the order. Joanne, do you want to start?
I'd like to give some time on this electric vehicle motion, and so instead of not doing it the next meeting, I'd like to have it held at the following meeting in the first week of November, that's all. That way I think will give time for people in the community to, both businesses and residents, to have their voices heard on both sides.
Rita?
I have nothing.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a couple of things. One is the Red Cross. I went to give blood a couple of weeks ago, and there was a full day setup, and they only had about 12 people signed up. That's really not good. Donations are down. Demand for blood is highly exceeding supply. If you're able to donate, please go to redcross.org and find a blood drive that is near you. They are running all the time, all over the county, all over our area, because a few minutes of your time may very well save somebody else's life. And I figured that it takes longer to get checked in than it does to go from tourniquet to Band-Aid. I mean, it's, 10 minutes maybe? But it's very important, and it makes a significant difference to other people. The other thing is we have a general election coming up Tuesday, November 7th. The last day to register to vote is October 23rd. And if you're using a mail-in or absentee ballot, the application for those ballots must be received by the county election board office no later than October 31st. And if you go to PA, just put in PA votes, that will bring up all the information that you need.
Thanks, Debbie.
Could I add one thing to her statement?
Sure.
If you're doing a mail-in ballot, you have to have it into the elections office by 9 a.m. on November 6th. You can't wait until November 7th.
Thank you, Joanne.
Mm-hmm.
Randy?
Yeah, I want to jump back on the EV charging stations as well, and I think what Deb had brought up, maybe see if you can do a follow-up on how many reports you got to give, whether it's a monthly or an annual, because the annual makes a big difference on staffing needs at that point. That's it.
Julie?
No, I'm just very happy to meet
You took Dawn's word.
She's stepping up.
Hey, she's learning.
Buddy?
It was great to see the community come together and celebrate homecoming this year. I know Officer Neidig and I and Officer Luce were in the parade, and it was really, really nice to see the community come out and support. So hopefully you were there and got to see it. It was something very, very nice for our community.
Thank you, buddy. Don?
One item, street paving should be hopefully finished maybe by Wednesday at the latest. Last couple roads, they didn't get out today, but they'll be back out tomorrow, and I think they'll hopefully be able to wrap it up.
Okay. I have to comment this EV charging station removal, the only reason it was on the agenda was to set the price of the EV charging and to make clear to borough staff. It was basically not to remove the charging stations. So when you tabled it, you delayed what was going on, but that's just public information that needs to be known. I think most of this council does not want to remove the EV charging stations, but we want a fair fee for the users to use the EV charging. It's the end of my comment.
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
I have nothing tonight either.
Tonight I do. So I just want to remind everyone that this month, October, is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The courthouse is bathed in purple light. Wear purple, in support of that, a pin, a ribbon, anything. Domestic violence does come in many different forms: physical abuse, verbal, emotional, sexual, financial, and stalking. Center Safe is having programs to assist people. It's a safe place to go if you do need help. The most dangerous time for a woman in leaving is when she's leaving a relationship. And so the people at Center Safe can help you to get out safely, to have a plan. Sometimes you pack and remove things from the home and have them with a safe friend just to get out safely. And there are many services in the area that can help with that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ken? Nothing. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.